Hello, I'm Jenny Fern and welcome to my library. I am a chaotic neutral mechanical engineer who's really into permaculture and wants to talk about books. So let's talk about books. So I'm here today with another reading your manga suggestions video. I posted a video quite a long time ago now, several months ago. That was I read manga for the first time. And this was last year. And that video has gotten really wonderful and helpful comments from you guys. And I have been testing out different manga based on your suggestions. And I thought it would be fun to do this again and to get a handful more exposure through my library and through free samples. I can test out, read one issue or however much the sample is, and then see if I'm interested, if I want to continue on with the series. So I did get one comment that recommended Hellboy, which I know is not a manga, but it's still, you know, like comic graphic novel arena. Thanks for mentioning the inventive panel layouts. Hellboy also has incredible layouts and tons of literary references, which I love. Now I'm definitely checking out Witch Hat Atelier. So based on that, I have checked out Hellboy from my library. I have Hellboy 1994 Omnibus Volume 1. And then I have on the holds, because all of these are checked out. I don't know how to pronounce this, so bear with me. Frieren or Rieren? Something like that. Frieren Beyond Journey's End, Volume 1. Try Frieren. It is being adapted to anime, so you can try that instead as well. I'm excited for that. It's also going to be a mystery. I don't know what it's about. It looks like a fantasy from just the cover art. Then I also placed on hold Demons of the Shadow Realm, Volume 1 by Hiromu Arakawa. And that was based on this recommendation here. Also second someone else's recommendation of Full Metal Alchemist, which is a beloved classic. Actually, any series by this mangaka, Hiromu Arakawa, is worth checking out. So that's why I got this Demons of the Shadow Realm, because I don't have a Full Metal Alchemist offered through my library, which seems like a gross oversight. This person also recommended Bride's Story by Kaoru Mori, and so I have gotten a sample from Google Books. I am going to start with the first issue of Hellboy, and then I'm going to move on to my sample of Bride's Story, because that is what I have at the ready at the current moment. So I will start reading and check in with you once I finish that first issue. I'm not exactly sure how much to read from this Hellboy omnibus. I read chapter 1, which is to page 33. So it looks like the first story is called Seed of Destruction, which goes from page 4 to 109. I read one chapter. I thought it was really compelling. It opens up with this really strange, like, Nazi ritual where they're trying to access this paranormal, like, demonic realm in order to enact the wishes of Hitler. This little Hellboy, this young demonic little guy, appears in the space that these kind of obscure, strange allied people are hanging out. They're hanging out in this space. This little Hellboy appears, and he is raised by one of the individuals. And then there's frog stuff that goes on, and I don't want to go too deep into it. I'm intrigued. I do want to finish out the first section and then see if I want to continue reading the full omnibus volume 1, because that does seem like a bit of a commitment. not like a super huge commitment, but it does seem good. So now I must take my little doggie out and run her around the yard a little bit. It is the following day. I will say, after I got back in from the garden yesterday, Matt woke up from a nap and we just hung out, watched some TV. So I did not read the second manga, but I did start it when I went to bed. And I can't for the life of me remember it. What I do recall, so this is Bride's story. So the story is set in Central Asia, and it seems like there's a young woman who is kind of an outsider to this close-knit community, and she is married to a child. She is married to a very young boy. That's basically what I got to. It's really cool. It is reminding me, I watched this show called Ainori, The Love Wagon. It's a Japanese reality television series. I really enjoyed it. They did a series all set in Asia. They ended up going into Central Asia. They went to like Kazakhstan. It was really fascinating because I definitely never seen that area from the Japanese perspective, which was quite interesting. But I also just really never learned that much about that area at all. I don't have any of my holds from the library due in to me, but I did spend a huge amount of time in the garden just now, and I want to show you what I've been up to. So one moment. So at the beginning of every one of my videos now, I mention that I'm really interested in permaculture, and I'd like to introduce some of those aspects in these videos just very briefly. This is what you could expect if you start to practice permaculture gardening practices, if you are so lucky to have access to land. This is salsify, which is a weed where I live, I guess. In my garden, obviously it's not a weed because I'm growing it for food, but I don't have to plant it. It sows itself with a very small amount of encouragement, and you get these roots. This one's a big thick one. A lot of these are really spindly because I was literally just digging up a patch, and in the course of digging up the patch, preparing the soil to plant some peanuts. So that was my little succession today. Very fun. Had a great time. And I also harvested a boatload of mint, which I'll show you as well. I have at least double this, but I have a bunch of peppermint. It smells amazing. It really smells so good. And mojito mint. So now I can have mint tea for the rest of my life. Now I have to wash all of that salsify root. I'm going to continue reading my sample of A Bride Story, and then I'll give you my opinions in a little bit. So wish me luck. I just finished reading the free sample portion of A Bride Story, which did, I feel like, get fairly far into the first issue. The free sample goes to page 43 of 194 of the first volume. My impressions. I really do like the artwork. I think it's really nice. I like how dynamic it is. I like how pretty it is. I especially enjoy the nature scenes. I think those are quite beautiful. There was also some action in this sample, which was, I think, well executed. Basically, we're just introduced to this young woman. She is, again, an outsider from a different village. She is brought into this village as a part of like a marriage exchange kind of thing, and she has been married to this, I think he's like 8 or like 10. He's a very young boy, and I think that aspect of it is the part that's weird for me. There was one page where like he's watching her before he goes to sleep. I just felt a little uneasy, like he seems enamored with her, and that doesn't quite sit well with me. I did look up to see if it seemed like an inappropriate series, and I guess there is no physical relationship, which is good, but I don't really like the concept of such a young boy like having an emotional relationship with a full woman where they're in that marriage status. I just don't really like the idea of it. I understand that it's historical and that there is like some historical research put into this series, but I just don't know if I'm going to be able to overcome that hurdle. I don't think that that's something that I'm interested in reading about. Many aspects of this were things that I would be interested, like the historical aspect, where they are, what we're kind of looking at like as a cultural study is very interesting. The attention to detail in terms of like their clothing. Again, I really enjoyed the artwork. I thought it was beautiful, but just that kind of key aspect to the story, I don't know if I would want to continue reading this series, especially because it is not offered through my library. This is something that I would have to purchase, and because of the content, I just really wouldn't want to purchase this. I still think it was a really good suggestion and something worth exploring. Strong recommendation. The story plotline just doesn't quite sit right with me. That's the main thing. That's really the only con with the sample that I read. Now I gotta feed these cats. I lit the duck candle for the special occasion of filming over in this corner. Can you believe that somebody had a duck candle for an unknown period of time? But they had it for the whole time that they had it, and they never lit it. I completely forgot that I was going to read manga, and I just gardened until darkness, and then I had to cook lunch for tomorrow. So I had to prepare the salsa root. I had a recommendation for saving 80,000 gold in another world for my retirement. So I got a sample of this from Google Playbooks, and it is only 21 pages, which is not very much, but I really want to see if this is something that I'm interested in because it sounds so interesting. And then the other big update I have is that last night I read 2 samples for the manga that I have on my holds list for my library, just because I wanted to see what those were like. And those were Frieren and Demons of the Shadow Realm. And I am compelled by Frieren. I think I will actually enjoy that quite a lot. Kind of about like this magic using elf who has completed a D&D campaign, basically like lives in D&D world, Forgotten Realms world, accomplished the big task at hand, had been in this adventuring party for like 10 years, and it seems like now we're following that character's story after this big adventure. So that sounds like it could be up my alley, and I do quite like the art in that as well. Demons of the Shadow Realm. I definitely would need to read more of that to see if I'm interested in it, because the initial kind of sample teaser was a little bit confusing. There wasn't enough in it to really get what's going on. Those are my updates. Those are all of my updates. Hello! I got one of the holds from the library, and it was called Demons of the Shadow Realm, I think. So it's funny how the timing works out. Last time I was reading your manga suggestions, I think the same thing happened, which was that my library card expired and I had to get a new one. And so the books that I had on hold for one card are no longer able to be checked out by me. I had to quickly return Demons of the Shadow Realm from the one card, get my new card, and like check it out really quickly. So I'm not sure how well it's gonna go for Frieren. I think I might lose that hold, which is a little annoying. But Demons of the Shadow Realm, Volume 1. I read the first issue. I'm really confused. I have no idea what's going on. They live in a town. There's like this guy and he has like this mysterious sister who seems to be like locked up, and then they get attacked and there's like helicopters and stuff. But like when I first was reading it, it didn't seem like this was a world that would have helicopters. It seemed very like old. And then now there's like monsters and stuff that are being controlled by these people. And I think a bunch of people died, and there seems to be one guy who like knows what's going on, and that guy can see the monsters whereas other people can't. I don't know, there's this girl who has this like creepy tooth chomping monster, and she seems like a freak. I guess if only for the curiosity, I'm interested, but for the actual, I don't know, it's just so much is going on that I don't understand that it's hard for me to give any sort of recommendation based off of that one issue. I do think I'll read the first volume to get a better idea. I also got a sample of Girls' Last Tour. I'm gonna try out this sample as well. The artwork looks very cute. Hello, I'm in this cute little corner of my house because we just kind of revamped it, so I want to show you guys, but Matt is playing video games just around the corner, so if you hear noises, that's what's going on. But I am gonna show you this little corner. We've got some paintings, and we recently picked this up, which a local person made as well. And then we've got my little dog drinking water. Sorry, Chloe. We have a moth because we have a light. This furnace thing is not functional, if anybody's worried. So I've got my little duck, which a friend made by hand. And then we have our boy holding a flute, and we've got our little ducks. And then we've got our broken clock up here. So this is now our cute little corner. We also have kind of somewhat a reading bench. This is painter's tape so that we actually fix this in some sort of more permanent way. So now it's painter's tape, so we feel ashamed. And I made this quote. So my new hack is I put on platform sandals so that I'm tall enough for the camera. Who's she? She's like 3 inches taller. So that thing happened again where I had a hold on a manga with my old library card, which expired. So I lost the hold, and now I'm 2 behind. I really wish there was a way for that not to happen to me. I have been reading Demons of the Shadow Realm Volume 1. I haven't read any more of the Hellboy, but I did like it. So I might actually try to read the next issue of Hellboy as well, just to see if I'm like actually interested in continuing that series. I think I could be. I just don't know if I'm like in the mood right now. I feel like it's maybe more of like a fall winter. Where I left off with Demons of the Shadow Realm, I was just really confused. And I'll be honest, I'm reading the second issue now as well, and I'm still really confused. I might read this whole volume. I'm leaning towards no at this point because it's just not really gripping me, but there is enough that's like kind of compelling that I at least want to know a little bit more of what's going on. There was the sample of Girls' Last Tour. This looks cute. I love this sense of scale. The environment is very cool. It's like these 2 little girls who are in this like war machine type environment. Like it seems like they're wearing like little helmets. They have like this little hodgepodge tank. Let me take a screenshot of this so I can show you. It's a very, very cute setting, and I like the idea of this setting a lot. The artwork for the characters is a little too weird for me. It's very, very cute. It's a little weird for me, but I could probably get over it, especially because it's such like a grim environment. But the sample I got was only 17 pages long, so I really don't have a great sense of this one. This is one that I might be interested in purchasing a copy, but I don't know where the plot goes, so I'm a little bit hesitant to commit. I got a comment from somebody that told me a website that I could get samples of manga from. Was it Viz? Yeah, Viz Media, I think. And I did sample Inuyasha. The sample, again, is just too short to really get into it. But I have to say, I love the character design for the women. This little creature is like a spirit. He is a half-human, half-demon hybrid. He has dog-like ears, a thick mane of hair, and demonic strength. And then there's like his minder, or like somebody who has control over him. I think I would like this one as well. It's got really comforting artwork. I really like the artwork, and it seems also quite dynamic. The preview was 20 pages, which just was not enough. And the problem is, if I'm not going to be able to access these through my library or through something that I'm already paying for, it's going to be very hard for me to commit to purchasing an entire series. There are already so many really great series that are offered through my library system. I might as well just read those. Did I talk about this? Guys, I think I forgot to mention one of the samples that I read, which was Saving 80,000 Gold in Another World for My Retirement. I barely remember this. It arrives in a place that she doesn't remember, and she's like in a house with these people who have saved her, but she can't remember what happened. Her parents have died. She's thinking about getting a job, and then she's like getting harassed by some guys, and then the sample ends like in the thick of her like having a moment after she's like pushed off by these guys who have been harassing her. I am actually really interested in this one. The art style, I don't mind at all. It is a little clean, maybe, if there's anything like commentary wise. Like, she's very shiny. And then the panel layouts I feel like are a little conventional. Hello! Guess what I got? I got a notification today that my hold for Frieren Beyond Journey's End Volume 1 was due, that I was able to check out a copy. And so I have checked out a copy, and I will be continuing on from where I had stopped when I was reading the sample. And I'm going to finish reading the first issue, and then I think I can close out this little vlog. The other big update that I have is I finished reading the first volume of Demons of the Shadow Realm. And ultimately, I don't think I'm going to continue on with this, but I think it was important for me to read that first volume because the first issue is really so confusing, and the rest of the volume really helps put into context what's happening in a much more fleshed out way. Compared to the other things that I could read, I'm just not that into it. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't really like the art. That's how that one ended up. There's a lot going on, and it seems like it could be interesting, but it's just not for me right now. I'm gonna go sit down and read this, and I will check in again. So I did just finish reading chapter 1, and I really liked it. And there is so much more after that sample that really kind of like solidifies like the direction that this story is going. We're following this elf who had been on like a 10-year adventure with like a D&D party basically. And she is going about her life, and she's living on her own elven time scale. And she had been on this adventuring party with humans. And so that perspective of being on the elven time scale and knowing and working with people who are on the human time scale seems to be a little bit of the exploration, at least of this first chapter. So I enjoyed it a lot, and I do want to read the first volume, but I also do want to close out this vlog before I get like too distracted. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna have to go back and figure out everything that I read and sampled. I read a sample of Girls' Last Tour, which I am really interested in. I thought the art was compelling and the story, I really want to know more. I also sampled Saving 80,000 Gold in Another World for my retirement, and this sample, again, it was just enough to get you like interested and not enough to really tell you where it's going. And I just didn't really have the best idea of the character. I do think this is something that I would be interested in reading more of, but again, my access to it is just limited. Demons of the Shadow Realm, I do have access to through my library, but I don't think I'm going to continue on with it. I just don't have that strong enough of an interest in it. Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, I am interested in. I do have access to it, so I think I am going to continue reading this. And I also feel like the things that I'm reading aren't exactly the same type of story. So I think I could add this one into what I'm reading and not have it seem like I'm already doing that kind of story. I also sampled Inuyasha, which I am so interested in, and I really wish it was offered through my library. I would continue reading it if I did have access to it in a free way. I think that's it. I may oh, Hellboy. I also read the first issue of Hellboy, and I did really like that. The commitment for my library, it was in a, what is it called when it's like all put together into one big gigantic volume? I don't want to commit to reading that much Hellboy at once. I have nothing against reading more of that. I think I probably will in the future. It's just like a not right now thing for me. I'm not feeling super compelled to continue on with it right now. Thank you so much for your suggestions. They have been really, really fun to explore. The only reason that I'm able to explore all of these specific options is because of the comments that you've left on my earlier videos. And I really appreciate it because I have found things that I'm really enjoying. And I do think I want to go back and read some of the manga that I sampled in that initial video where I read your manga suggestions. But again, it's just like a not right now kind of thing. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments. As you can see, I actively look at them, I actively check things out and try to read them. If you enjoyed this and you have a friend who you think would also enjoy it, please consider sharing it with that friend and consider liking and subscribing, and I will talk to you again soon.